That's all.
Right. Assembly Member Dismore.
Thank you, Chair. Well, you've told us what you achieved in your time as Chair. The Mayor appointed you in January 2017 and you resigned in January 2018.
Yes.
Did you jump or were you pushed?
I didn't actually resign, Mr. Dismore, to be absolutely accurate. I simply didn't seek any extension or renewal of my 12-month contract, which was a quarter full-time equivalent contract. I didn't seek an extension. The circumstances were that there were some concerns about the Nighttime Commission, which I laid out in my resignation letter to the Mayor in January of this year. The concerns, in very brief, concerned the independence of the Nighttime Commission, secondly, its administrative support, and thirdly, the public profiling of the Commission's work. That is set out in great detail in that letter. I'm not sure it's helpful to get into the detail, but I set those out as very clear concerns which were prerequisites for my continuation as Chair. I also said if those concerns could be satisfied, I was very content to work for free. I was very passionate about the work. Unfortunately, those concerns could not be resolved, were not resolved, and so the logical next step was for me to leave the job, which I have to say I enjoyed very much.
Yeah, well, we've seen your other capacities representing Uber drivers, lap dancing club in Sheffield, expensive bar in York, and you're also patron and past chairman of the Institute of Licensing and on the board of the Nighttime Industries Association. And whilst technically these other roles may not be a formal conflict of interest, I think they do raise eyebrows for some people. Was this a factor in you stepping down?
Absolutely not at all, no. Can I contextualise this? I am a barrister, and barristers are subject to something which is called the cab rank rule, and that means that whoever comes and seeks my services, I am obliged to render those services. And in that guise, for example, you raised the question of lap dancing. The legislation which covers lap dancing in this country is the product of pro bono campaigning work that I did with feminist organisations to give local authorities greater control over whether and where lap dancing clubs should be situated. So the fact that I act for this party or that party, I hope as part of the attributes which I brought to the job. My clients comprise, for example, the Gambling Commission, the Security Industry Authority, the Metropolitan Police. It is a question of who picks up the phone and seeks to secure my services. But certainly it didn't give rise in my mind, and I don't think in the Mayor's mind, to any conflict. My job at the Greater London Authority was to try to see all sides and to ensure that London as a whole were able to fashion and formulate the future development of London's nighttime economy. And it was a role I took very seriously. I most certainly didn't bring in any agenda on the part of any party whom I represent professionally.
Well, as I say, I think they do raise eyebrows, but at last July's Economy Committee, I suggested to you that, quote, it's important that residents are properly represented, not just consulted on the Commission.
Yes.
And you said, quotes, I'll take that as a takeaway from this meeting. I'll take away your views and discuss it with colleagues. Did you do so, and with what outcome? I
did do so. And the outcome was that we considered, it was a very large commission, it was 27 members, which I think you would agree is larger than most commissions which sit in this country. And that was so as to get a great diversity of view across the public, private and third sectors. But they included, for example, the chair of licensing at Westminster City Council, who every day listens to the concerns of residents. It included Jan Hart, who is the head of public protection at the London Borough of Islington, whose concerns are the protection of residents. It included Joe Negrini, the chief executive of the London Borough of Croydon, who is there, obviously, to advance the agenda for residents. It included Roy Smith of the Metropolitan Police. It included Hannah Wadey of Community Safety. All of these people brought in perspectives from all the different aspects of public protection. Had we had a resident or a residents' association, where would it end? Would we have to have one from every borough? Would we have to have one from inner London and outer London and so on and so forth? Instead, we considered the best way of doing this was to consult Londoners as a whole while having a really diverse group within the Nighttime Commission itself. So we did give that very serious consideration, Mr. Dismore, and I'm sorry if our decision disappointed you.
Yeah, well, I think it's not a question that disappoints me, it's a question of whether it disappoints residents who are affected by the nighttime economy. But when you stepped down, you stated, and I think you've just said so, that there was not enough done to raise public awareness of the Commission's work. And you've told us that meetings are due to be held every 2 months, but only one meeting was held with you as the chair in October last year. The minutes state, quotes, "Transparency is crucial to the work of the Commission," but the meetings weren't in public, were closed meetings. So the question is that transparency? And with closed meetings, maybe that also explains the lack of awareness by the public.
Well, how the meetings were held was not a matter for me. I was subject to the administrative organs which govern the administration of this building. If I can correct you, I hope you don't mind, there were meetings of the Nighttime Commission in October 2017. I said they were bi-monthly. There was a further meeting in December 17. It was a matter of great concern to me that the minutes of those meetings should be published as soon as humanly possible on the GLA's website. One of the issues for me, which I know was an issue for your Economy Committee as well, was what was happening with the production of minutes. The minutes of the December meeting, which I signed off in December, I think were put on the GLA's website a few days ago, and that characterised one of the concerns I had, that we were not being publicised in the way which ought to have been expected. But I certainly agree with you that when a commission is working for the good of London, then its work needs to be entirely transparent and the public need to be fully involved. We were trying to stimulate a conversation amongst Londoners, and for that we needed all the backing of the comms organisation within this building to make sure that our work got out there. And that was the third concern which I raised with the Mayor, that I didn't feel that enough was being done in that regard. I'm quite sure that the message was taken on board, and I hope that now the situation is rather different.